Hello there, Reject Nation. I'm Greg Alba.
I'm John Humphrey.
I'm Brianne Chandler.
One of our top reward tiers on Patreon is whatever video you guys request, the patrons. This is a video podcast, so there's no editing there. We must definitely do and put up on YouTube. And today comes from Andrew Hayes, who specifically said, and I'm so happy I got Brianne here, because I said I'm trying to get Brianne to be in what's happening. What are we laughing at?
He screenshot it for you.
No. I got something else. I got something else. I said I'm trying to get Brianne to get. I said I'm trying to get Brianne Chandler to guest star on the podcast. And then he said that would be awesome if she could do it. I'm such a huge fan of her.
Oh,
see, that's what I was trying to pull up.
Hayes loves you.
And this is an easy to talk about topic where none of us made notes
Not
because
easy.
this is so easy to just spitball, just let it all out. We don't have to watch it all, what we're saying. This is going to be easy. It's about art versus the artist. Andrew said, I think it'd be cool if you guys talked about separating the art from the artist, as I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, especially with everything going on with Bohemian Rhapsody and Green Book during award season. We have Brianne here, a female presence, who's just to, diversify it as opposed to just two dudes talking about this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you guys right now, always separate the art from the artist. Go watch Woody Allen's films. Roman Polanski's made some good movies. I'm totally lying, by the way. I can't keep this joke going for a long time.
There should be no more artists, but only art.
Just never say who they are.
Submitted by Anonymous.
All art is anonymous now.
It's tough. This is actually a really tough, because it's like this funny thing is you could talk about this topic and it could get you in a lot of trouble just talking about the topic.
Well, I think a big reason for that is that there's no agreeable rubric for this question.
No, there isn't. And sometimes I feel like the safest bet to start with is saying that sometimes you got to take something like this, especially a little bit case by case, depending on the situation. But then it's like there are some things where what do we perceive as forgivable? What do we perceive as like, okay, well, with enough time and enough contrition, we can let them come back into the spotlight. And then a lot of this also has to deal with the idea of we kind of worship, our culture sort of worships celebrities in a lot of ways as something more than the average person. Also, I don't know where a good jumping off point is.
R. Kelly.
R. Kelly. So R. Kelly,
No.
Chris Brown. Let's go through them all. Case by case, we're going to dissect them. Aziz Ansari.
Your execution. We are the judge, jury, and executioner.
You know what I'm going to start off with? I don't think it's cool how so many people are already trying to make a comeback so soon.
Ooh, agreed.
I don't think that is appropriate. Like, Louis C.K.
That's the name that popped in my head.
I heard I heard a few minutes of that actually, and like he's already joking about like no one's gonna book me. He's getting the crowd laughing based off of his past discretions, and I'm like, there's no way you changed as a human being in this amount of time. Like, there's just no fucking way you changed.
I think that's one of those show me the money situations. Like, show me how you've changed.
Yeah.
Like, what have you done? How have you helped your previous victims in a way that you could, like, help them? Like, because there's some things, obviously, you can't do and you can't, like, connect with people. But, like, how have you done anything to change? Properly
demonstrate it, and some people are just so quick to forgive, too,
There's that.
Yeah, some people don't even see the problem, which is, like, kind of the weirder part about it.
Well, that's the thing is the stuff that we love and the people who make it are very easy to get attached to, and they fill emotional voids, which makes this whole debate much harder to me in a broad sense. Because think about it, like, we all derive emotional and somewhat spiritual meaning from the art that we care the most about. And for some people, if that's your favorite person, I guess, depending on your disposition, it's just going to be hard to not be in denial about that, which, I don't support that way of handling these things, but I do recognize that this does present a strange conundrum for everybody, And yeah, I mean, This is fascinating because the argument becomes, well, when is it time? And I'm like, I don't know that needs to be the argument at all right now because there's still so much wrong that's happening.
And a lot of the focus also goes on when can they have a comeback, and it doesn't really go on, supporting the victims who have suffered the consequences.
How can we support people that have been hurt?
Exactly, like especially in the movie industry, talk of these things. A lot of the people who are affected are actresses or aspiring female creators, and then we don't ever try to well, let's try to give them a chance, or like what are the things they've suffered with, or what are the art they've tried creating that they were limited on putting out there because of the fact that they were abused. We don't ever go in that direction. We immediately go to what is reconciliation going to happen for this person. I'm like, well, I don't think that was the time to talk about that. Like, I think that's what remember when Bryan Cranston came out and he was like, we should be thinking about forgiveness, and I'm like, well, sure, I don't think right now is the time we should be talking about forgiving this person, though.
I'm really fascinated by that part of this argument, just because I totally get why that should not at all be the focus, but it does naturally seem to be just an aspect of the situation. And if we're all going to be discussing it all the time, I don't altogether think it's inappropriate to wonder, but I do think that you got to be tactful in recognizing who you are, what position you're in, where and when you're bringing this idea up. Because I am not of the mind that, all these crimes are different. Everybody who we have in our recent cultural consciousness of having done something pretty terrible, they're all different. And so, I'm kind of losing my train.
Each victim gets 1 year of which that they have, right? Yeah. So the person had 4 victims. All right, you can't come back for 4 years.
We're trying to contain it and put rules on it, but I'm like, no, you can't though. You just can't.
Well, the thing that we all forget about celebrities is that their lives include all the mundane difficulties that ours do too, except we just view them from afar as these titanic figures, that are held to this weird standard of perfection. And not to say that, if you fuck up, that doesn't merit consequence, but I think there is also that level of shock when it's like you idolize these people as being almost more than human, and then to find out that they're grossly human is like a weird thing for people to handle, I think. And so then it becomes, well, now there's this void of something that I love. When can I fill it again?
Well, and it becomes, I think it becomes a little bit complicated. Like, take Bohemian Rhapsody, for example.
Yes.
Like a big defense that I've heard for why this film should be getting even though I really don't like the movie, it's just in general.
Just it's just okay.
Just an okay film,
Raimi is amazing.
Yeah, I'll give it to him, The thing is, with Bohemian Rhapsody, like a big talk about it is like Bryan Singer's the credited director. He's going to be making $20+ million off of the success of this film. He just got, I heard Red Sonja has just been put on hold now because of the whole article that was released. But the big talk of it is, should Bohemian Rhapsody be deserving the level of praise when Bryan Singer is the director who helmed it? And the defense that comes in is, well, and then this makes me go to like Roman Polanski, for example, or the other countless directors or producers like Harvey Weinstein, where it's a big collaborative effort and there's a lot of people involved. So should the film itself be solely condemned because of the main guy who helmed it, even though there's a lot? Because it seems like when everyone's winning awards, no one's mentioning Bryan Singer.
Well, they took his name off of it for the Oscars. They put the other guy's name in. They did.
Okay, so the Oscars
so they're
took
like,
a long time to listen.
We're gonna just
but the movie itself still says Bryan Singer.
Yeah. Yes, it does. It does.
Because they did a great job on hiding that. Because then it gets into complicated territory. For like I haven't seen a lot of Roman Polanski films. I did eventually watch. I decided to watch Rosemary's Baby around the time Mother came out because I was like,
that too. I think probably a similar timing.
Yeah, but I don't watch any of the films he's done in the past recent years.
I never saw The Pianist.
Yeah, I haven't seen The Pianist. I haven't seen a lot of his films. And then it goes, okay, well then, those people who are supporting Roman Polanski, knowing what he did, do we now shut them out? I feel like what this whole debate leads to is just a lot of questions that really have very limited answers. But I do think overall, no, we shouldn't just...
If you remove a domino, does the rest of it fall?
Yeah, pretty much. And I think generally speaking, I don't think we should remove the art from the art. Like, I don't think Roman Polanski should be my personal belief. I don't think he should be still making films. That's just my personal belief. Bryan Singer, I don't think should be making films anymore. Like, especially with that I don't know if you guys read that article. I couldn't even finish it. It was so detailed.
I have not read it.
It's
but
crazy.
I've heard things from the past about him.
That's one of those famously poorly kept secrets.
Yes.
Like R. Kelly.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Do I think we need to like burn the material? Where I stand on that is no. I don't think we need to like shelve Rosemary's Baby off of everywhere, or like delete American Beauty.
So it's okay if it was before what happened. Well, he created this before, so
see, that's
okay
what I mean. It's
that.
like now do I seem fucked up for saying yes to that?
I mean,
like,
I don't know.
Like that's
I
what I mean.
watched it and I knew that he sucks.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's hard. There's certain
that's
things,
the weird...
and then like I get real weird about things like I'm not gonna go see Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse until they put a disclaimer for people that are epileptic because they did not do that. And I have a friend who had a very big problem with the movie, and I was like, so I'm gonna stand my ground and be like, I'm not seeing it until you put that warning up, and then I'll go see it.
Right.
That has nothing to do with what we're talking, but it was something that I was just thinking of. Like once it meets my criteria, then I will go.
That's what I mean. It's like a lot of this are it's all on a case by case basis, and it's like the individual's responses to this. Like if you hear that Louis C.K. audio, man, there are people just dying in there, and then you read articles of people who just walk the fuck out of there, And I'm like, right there in that room, you're hearing about the divide. People who just refused to listen and left, and then there are people who are clapping out all of his jokes,
Well, I think there are a lot of things to consider, and I think one of the biggest ones, and I've heard a lot of people touch on this in discussion, is where you are in proximity. Like, are they still alive? Are they still, at the top of their game or something like that? Are you actively contributing to their well-being and supporting their art somehow? Because the thing somebody referenced Hannah Gadsby and the way she takes down Picasso in her stand-up special. Like, Picasso's a terrible guy. But he's made this timeless art that we all flock to museums to see.
I saw that whole stand-up. I think she flat out says we just shouldn't separate the art from the artist.
Yeah, and I think there's a fair argument for that. I do think that in certain contexts, the problem is, for me, in that context, like with Picasso, I feel like people ought to be aware if you're going to take the art in, because clearly this affected the medium in a significant way. So in my mind, I'm like, I don't want to burn all of this, although I recognize how problematic it is. And it's like...
So what do you do? I have no idea.
I have no idea. That's the problem. I think it comes down to a personal thing. And for me, I once went to a protest about a certain movie. It was about Last Tango in Paris. Because somebody was doing a screening of Last Tango... selling tickets for a screening of Last Tango. And the director of that movie pretty much came out and said, we wanted a natural reaction from our actress. She was not prepared for that scene. And that's like an actual vile transgression in the text of the movie itself. And that's something where I'm like, yeah, even with historical context to cinema or whatever, I don't want to see that movie anymore. I don't want to support it. And then I thought to myself, okay, I know which company is exhibiting this right now. So if I'm in a position where I have to go to this theater for some reason and I have to pay, then I will actively take it on myself to go maybe find an organization that does the opposite of that, that supports, survivors of sexual assault or something like that, and contribute to that to offset myself or something like that. Like, that was kind of the best plan I came up with, is like, for the most part, when these things happen, in my conscience, it just taints the art. And so now it's like, you heard that stuff about Casey Affleck. I was so excited to see Ghost Story, and now I'm just kind of like, I don't think I'm going to watch it, just because, I don't know, now I just have this taste in my mouth about that guy.
Yeah.
And, that's where it comes down for me, honestly, is once it's in my brain, I'm aware of it, and I'm just not going to respond the same way to that art anymore. In fact, not the same kind of thing even, but a lesser transgression. There's a band I really like, and the lead singer went on Instagram when they were doing a lot of the gun control protests after the Parkland shootings and stuff, and was basically vehemently opposed to that and being very disrespectful towards the kids especially. And that's not the same kind of offense as sexually assaulting somebody. But I was still like, I don't know when the next time I'm gonna be able to listen to your music is, because this is just ugly and mean-spirited in a way that I can tell is kind of a part of your soul.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing too, is there's also the opposite side. Another of my favorite bands, you know, the lead got into trouble for flat out kicking somebody in the face, basically. And that was a situation where I was like, you know, this is really shitty of you. I don't think that this says that you hate a certain group of people or that you actively seek to destroy. I think you were loaded up and being a bit of a bull in a china shop. And so for this, I'm going to keep myself aware, but I don't think it's nasty enough that I have to boycott you forever, you know? So I don't know. Yeah, for me, it always comes down to a feeling more than anything. But movies are where it's hardest to me, because there are so many cogs and not everybody is under the same position. You know, some people really need the work. Some people aren't even in the department that's involved with whoever's making whatever thing. Like there's
so many people involved.
Yeah, and so I feel like in the case of a Bohemian Rhapsody, for example, yeah, it's like I don't want to support a Bryan Singer movie now. Although I recognize that movie isn't. It's not like it was his story that he came up with, that he is authoring, that he is the creative voice of. This is the Queen story. So in a sense, I'm kind of like, well, I get that this is not just his thing. If this was The Usual Suspects 2, then I'd just be out, you know?
Well, I think, though, that I feel like there's something weird about, if you look at the entertainment industry as just jobs, you know? Jobs in itself. Okay, now let's apply the word job to any other place of employment. If you're going to McDonald's and then you're like, oh shit, this person was accused and it's pretty much proven that he has raped people. Would you want to get a burger from this? You know what I mean? But how come with the entertainment industry for art, like Chris Brown?
I mean, they kind of did that with Chick-fil-A, right? Because they were like, well, Chick-fil-A has this view,
Chick-fil-A
you know,
supports anti-gay.
Yeah, so it's like, I'm not going to eat a Chick-fil-A. You
exactly.
know? Same thing, right?
Yeah, and I feel like the same kind of concept should be applied with the people who work in the entertainment industry, for sure. It's just, like Chris Brown, it amazes me how he still works so much. Like, a lot of people just go, that Rihanna thing was forever ago. I'm like, guys, a lot of other shit has happened with Chris Brown since that Rihanna shit, man. Like, a lot of multiple accusations and like violence. It's just read up on it, even very recently. And, you know, a lot of the things that people come down to as well are the whole innocent until proven guilty argument, you know, which I feel like
always
a lot.
My favorite smoke and mirrors argument. Always my favorite.
Why does it always come? A lot of the times it just the people
like
will boil it
social
down to
media
that.
doesn't have that though. So
Yeah, exactly.
The court of social media is way different than actual court.
Yes.
So.
Well, and the way we discourse, especially nowadays, is so accelerated and so hyper intense in a way. I feel like everything is it's harder to have a discussion nowadays. I feel like, because I feel like there's a pressure to know how you feel right away and to just be on the page. And I don't know. I don't necessarily disagree with the sentiments. It's like, yeah, I feel like you should hold these people responsible for sure. But I think what it does to the discourse is fascinating, because I think a lot of people who don't need to hate each other over the art kind of get to that place, because social media is just a terrible place to talk about issues like these, you know?
Sure. Well, I mean, my thing though with the whole, and it's like the innocent until proven guilty thing really struck a nerve for me when it came to who's the guy who hosts Talking Dead?
Chris Hardwick.
Chris Hardwick.
Chris Hardwick.
When it came to that, like when I heard about whatever that investigation was, and everyone was like innocent until proven guilty. I'm like, do you know how many criminals have gotten away just because of that?
I was just thinking Casey Anthony. Like, Casey Anthony clearly killed her child.
Yeah.
But there's not enough evidence to convict her. Just like, kind of like the Adnan Syed story for whatever that podcast was.
It's
like you can't. Yes, we really do believe he killed someone, but there's not enough evidence to convict him. So therefore, technically innocent.
So he's innocent, no right to judge. And I'm like,
okay.
Gosh, I mean, like almost every murderer who has been convicted and found guilty there was a long time where there wasn't enough evidence, but we all fucking knew. It's like Al Capone. We're like, we all know that guy's a bad guy. Everyone knew that. It's just, well, we need the right evidence to point. And it's that black and white thinking I am very much opposed against. In a lot, especially when there's like so much presented already, and where women especially don't that whole thing where like women want their 15 seconds of fame or whatever. I'm like, yeah, I don't really know what positive fame does that really get, you know?
Yeah. Speaking from experience, I definitely don't want people looking at me like ever. So regarding certain things. And so it's just like, I would never want to do that unless I felt I needed to in order to make the story add more to the story of what's happening.
Was there anyone?
If that's vague enough.
Was there one of these, like for me, the big takedown for me, the one that really broke my heart was actually Louis C.K. because I hailed him as my favorite comedian. Huh. Was there one of those celebrities for you so far that was like, that person I adored, and now I can't even really listen to them?
Gosh, I really don't think so.
You haven't had that with any of them?
Well, most of them are men, so I'm kind of like not really attached to many people. I'm like, oh, I guess I have to get rid of this. I mean, if it was Leonardo DiCaprio, I'd be like, oh,
yeah,
man.
that would be a bummer, right?
I really liked that guy. But I don't know. There's not one that's really struck me like, not that guy.
Yeah, I mean, anyway, regardless, I feel like generally speaking, Mel Gibson is one where I have actually been, there's a long period of time where I'm like, you know what, I'm in all full support for his comeback. And it wasn't until very recently when
Daddy's Home too, because that is great. I really do love that movie. But he's kind of acting like himself, so I don't know. Anyways.
It was, you see, for me, I was coming on the standpoint of, Mel did some fucked up things. And then he kind of disappeared for a while, and it was known that he had been, he did at least all I remember is court-ordered rehab and court-ordered anger management. And he hadn't had an incident in many years, and da-da-da-da-da. So, maybe he has had enough contrition or whatever. And then it was actually with this whole Liam Neeson thing that came up, of what he was talking about for many years ago. And I was I heard several audios, people commenting on it, and one I came across was from Double Toasted. And Double Toasted, they brought up how, in those audio recordings towards his ex-wife, he used the N-word. And he said, I hope you get raped by a pack of, he said that. And Mel Gibson never apologized for...
Liam Neeson or Mel Gibson?
Mel Gibson.
Okay.
Sorry.
Liam Neeson, got it. Yeah. We're on a different train now. Got it.
Because
on it.
He brought up Mel Gibson.
I'm on the train.
So Mel Gibson never apologized for saying those words. And my first thought was, well, would anyone have cared or believed him? And then my second thought was, well, it doesn't matter. He still should have apologized anyway. It doesn't matter if he's still I've seen him do several things with Danny Glover since then, or Whoopi Goldberg came out and defended him, or Jodie Foster, who's openly gay, has defended him and worked with him since, but it doesn't matter though that he has other people advocating for him, and he didn't apologize for it. So it was the first time where I was like, oh, you know what? Now I'm a little bit conflicted on whether or not I should be all in support of this guy because he's fucking made Hacksaw Ridge and he's still a damn good actor. You know what I mean?
Well, I think a lot of this has to do with putting yourself beyond yourself, because one of the biggest problems I see with a lot of these issues is that people don't take the moment to entertain what the group they don't belong to who is speaking out has to say or how they might feel. It's
a good point.
You got
because for people who are actual survivors of assault or sexually all these things, I'm like, that's a totally different. They will feel completely much stronger about this than I will feel about it.
Yeah, it's like with the Liam Neeson thing, for example. I mean, there's I think a lot of the natural inclination for a lot of people is to go, well, he was confessing to something he wasn't proud of from a very long time ago, as, sort of illustrating the ugliness of revenge. And in a sense, I get it, and I don't hate Liam Neeson now. But I also think it's incredibly valid for at least the people in the black community I've heard to be like, look, this is part of a culture that has, even beyond that point and that place in the world, caused some really terrible things for us. So I think those people are entitled to feel how they feel right now, because it doesn't matter when you heard about it. You heard about it when you heard about it, and you're going to feel it based on that. So even if that happened to him 40 years ago, I don't think we should, quote, cancel Liam Neeson, but people have a right to feel the way they feel, especially in the communities he could have affected, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that is something that we all need to do better at entertaining, is sort of what is the counter, especially for the victims, and why might that be? Because I think we all forget that the goal is to kind of be a great humanity together. And
to learn.
Yeah. And
to get better.
And I feel like it's really easy to spout off without going, okay, who was affected by this, and what did they have to say?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I don't think we should. I totally believe that people can change, and I totally believe that in forgiveness, absolutely. There is a point though where I'm like, that idea of contrition, like how long has it been?
Just like when they do the whole thing about bringing up old tweets of people, like with the Kevin Hart thing, and
or like James Gunn
not hosting the Oscars, James Gunn losing a job. It's like, what? I don't know.
See, that's a case by case. Like, it really is case by case scenarios. I'm like, well, I feel like with James Gunn, that should have been a discussion. I'm like, sure, these jokes are gross, but come on, Disney, you fucking hired him, you know? Like, you know this shit existed.
For a while.
Did you look at his filmography?
Like you knew that, and same thing with Kevin Hart as well, you know. And I've heard some people say like he still should have apologized, even though he's already apologized. He should still apologize again, even
retweet his
apology
from years ago. I don't know.
Retweet it, yeah.
Here it is. No,
I don't know. I mean, generally speaking, Brianne, what do you think? Do you think it's just a case by case scenario, or do you think in general it's?
I think it's always a case by case scenario.
Yeah.
Obviously, like there's that saying, the punishment fits the crime, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't know, when you have these smaller things, like a tweet that, I say smaller, it's probably big to people, and I apologize if I have offended someone, but, like, when you have something like bringing up old tweets, like, that has a different weight than someone who has sexually abused someone else. So, So I definitely think everything is a case-by-case basis in every situation. And it's always for yourself, like, what do you feel? Because we don't have a set rule in society, like, well, if you do this, then that's at least 3 months of we don't get to see you, and then you can come back, you know? So we don't have those rules. So I think it has to be obviously up to you and what you are comfortable with. And I think it's okay, like, to say to other people, like, if someone's like, oh, you want to go see this movie this weekend? And I think it's okay for me to say, I'm not really comfortable with seeing that person in that film. So you go enjoy yourself, and I'm not going to see that with you. You know? Things like that. And I don't even need to get into why. Like, or I could just be like, I don't really like this person. You have fun.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, this is fun. I think we nailed it.
Sure.
I think we've
solved all the problems.
We solved it.
Figured it out.
What we've done is discuss the questions. And even more.
There's a lot. It's hard.
Yeah. People need to disappear sometimes, and just let them disappear for a long time with a real apology. And focus more on the victims. Guys, what do you think? Should you separate the art from the artist? You have the answers. YouTube commentators too. They have all the answers. Yes. And Andrew Hayes, thanks so much for requesting this, buddy. This was a subject where you have to be mindful of what you're saying at all times. And I appreciate the challenge of putting our voice out there. And I know this video will be met with no dislikes, only upvotes the entire time. So Andrew, thank you for allowing us to have some controversy in our lives.
Yeah, very calm and collected controversy.
Yeah, with never having to be wary of certain things to bring up. This was great.
Or exactly how we're articulating them.
Subscribe to the region. We should do a fun thumbnail pose here for this video. Whoa! Humor. Subscribe to Reject Nation. Click that notification bell. Check us out on Patreon and follow Brianne Chandler. Are you still Miss Movies on there?
Miss Movies. Yep.
Miss
on
Movies.
YouTube. Miss_movies
Madam
on Instagram.
And you can find her at your local cathedral helping out with the homeless children.
Yeah, I do. I'm at the food banks regularly. So
It's feeding herself. See you guys.